Being creative feels amazing, yet some of us struggle with actually doing creative things. So in this video, I'm going to explain 5 bad creativity habits that you should avoid in order to build a productive and creatively fulfilling life. Not finishing any project. So you start up that drawing that you've always wanted to do, but then after a few days, you get frustrated that it doesn't look quite as good as you'd want it to. So you put it to one side and instead get started on the next new idea that you have in mind, only for the same cycle to repeat again and again. I myself have gone through this pattern in the past as well, and I've stopped many projects that I was in the middle of. As an example, I was making a YouTube video about me reaching out to fellow filmmakers here in Budapest with the intention of talking to them to see if we could collab together. But after a few days of doing this, I felt that the reward that I would get in return from putting in this extra effort of documenting my process just ended up being an additional layer of difficulty in what was already quite a challenging thing for me to do. Knowing when to quit is itself its own art form. Stephen Bartlett's quitting framework is a good system to look at for this, to figure out when quitting actually makes sense to us. Are you thinking about quitting? Yes. Why are you thinking about quitting? It sucks. Do you believe you could make it not suck? Yes. Is the effort to make it not suck worth it? Yes. Don't quit. No. Quit. We go back to, do you believe you can make it not suck? No, I've tried my best. Quit. And if we take the other route, why are you thinking about quitting? It's just hard. Is the challenge worth the potential reward? Yes. Don't quit. No. Quit. If you're lacking the drive to make what you know you want to make, it's likely that you just have too much friction around the act of doing the thing itself. This friction could be due to a few things, but 3 quite common ones include: your standards are way too high for what is actually considered to be something that is good. It's just too difficult to continue progressing on the art itself day to day. For instance, you always have to drag out that ladder to grab that DJ deck out of your cupboard. And the third one being that finishing the project feels way more unfamiliar to you as an emotion than if you were struggling with the project, which is basically a version of imposter syndrome. You can actually tackle all of these in a few different ways. The solution to the first one being get feedback from friends and family, because they'll likely encourage you and remove the blinders that you have about the lack of quality in your art, because it actually is pretty decent. The solution to the second one being make the act of doing your project easier. So putting those DJ decks on your shelf for easier access. And a potential solution to the third one being to read books and blogs about how to tackle this before sharing your first piece of content online. This way you'll hear from other people who felt the exact same way as you did, and you'll quickly realize that most people are very encouraging about you putting your creativity online, with any haters only really coming once you start to get success because they jealous. For me personally, one thing that really helped me overcome any sort of friction like this when being creative or doing any creative act was to hold the mindset that for a piece of art to even exist, it has to be shipped, or rather posted somewhere online. That awesome video edit that you've done or that song isn't really a creative piece of anything, only if it exists somewhere where other people can listen or watch it. In my opinion, I believe that art requires it to be given to other people in some form. It's why creatives such as musicians can produce something that is so vulnerable and can relate to so many different people, because you're giving it to others to consume, enjoy, and critique. Again, the latter of which, the critique part, is often the scariest part for people to have to face when putting an art form out. But honestly, if you just post it now, get the feedback, almost all of it is going to be positive. You will build up that confidence that people are actually envious of the fact that you're even able to have the courage to post stuff online when they wish that they had. And by the time that your skills get super good and you look back cringing at all of the old projects of yours, you can always just remove them or private them once you've built up a solid body of work that pales in comparison to the first batch of things that you made and put online. Not starting until the right moment. New year, baby, new me. I'm finally gonna start that script that I've had in my head for months. Then you see a post online about that new fancy 4K monitor and convince yourself that that's the thing you really need to make that script writing experience easy peasy. You order it finally arrives, and you're still struggling. But that new apartment that you're about to move into with the big ass windows, that's gonna be the thing to inspire you to get into regular script writing sessions. It hasn't. You already have everything you need to make a start. You're just kidding yourself. Because in reality, there is no perfect time to start making some kind of progress on the creative projects that you want to do. I've been guilty of this too in relation to script writing my YouTube videos. Feeling that I could only make progress on my scripts if I had an hour of dedicated time free where I could sit down at my computer with a nice cup of English tea by my side. It's actually not English tea, it's like herbal something. But I realized that I have Notion on my phone, and instead of scrolling Instagram during the 10-minute journey to the gym, I could just pull up Notion and write a few lines in there. This might not feel like a lot of progress, but add up these blocks of 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, and those sentences soon become paragraphs, and then those paragraphs will soon become an entire 10-minute finished YouTube script. The author Matthew Dix points this out so beautifully. The mistake that people make is in failing to recognize the value of smaller quantities of minutes saved in terms of how these minutes, when combined with others, begin to add up quickly and amount to meaningful chunks of time over the span of weeks, months, and years. There are, of course, times when you should prioritize your time towards certain projects over others. I went for a period where I was learning how to DJ, but then I realized that I needed to put more time and focus working on my systems to put out regular YouTube content instead of learning how to mix some banger beats. But I know that I'll return to that hobby/creative skill that I want to build some later time in the year when I've got my routine in place with putting out regular content on YouTube. Just like this video. And then I'm gonna miss another week. No! You can think about life and how you spend your time in it day to day in relation to seasons. Maybe spring is about getting your head down on your business stuff, and then winter you have time set aside to hunker down in front of your MIDI keyboard to start making those banger dance beats again. Because the feeling of that right moment is often just an excuse because you believe that the right moment will be the motivation that you need to start taking action. It might be enough to give you that push to get started, but it'll soon deplete and you'll just end up quitting because you relied on the motivation of this right moment to carry you up until the end of the project. When motivation is fleeting and unreliable, creating a sustainable system that you can always rely on will remove the friction in the productivity that you need to do. Simple things like if you're a YouTuber, having your gear already set up the night before on the Friday evening before your bed, meaning that when you come to wake up on the Saturday morning, you get into your office and you can easily spend a portion of that day building up the skill of putting out YouTube content. It sounds stupidly simple to do and not at all complex, but you'll be surprised how at first you have to actively push yourself to make these steps that you know will gradually evaporate any weird excuses that you had held in your head in the past about why you couldn't do a certain thing before, making you realize that the problem was ultimately you and nothing else. I'm the problem, it's me. Not stealing enough from others. Many creatives are plagued with the idea that they need to be original to stand out amongst the sea of other people doing the exact same thing as them. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but nothing is original. What about that Drake song I love was so original? It's a sample from another song. Well, what about my favorite director, Quentin Tarantino? That whistling song in Kill Bill was so new. Well, it was taken from another movie. In the words of Kirby Ferguson, nothing is original, everything is a remix. So if you're trying to find originality, you're literally chasing a ghost around, something that you think exists, but is instead just a figment of your imagination. Or is it? Once you give yourself over to this reality, stealing / taking inspiration from multiple sources becomes your starting point. And doing that in combination with your own personality, life experiences, interests, that's what makes what is an amalgamation of multiple sources feel like it's a fresh and original thing to other people. The author Austin Kleon, in his amazing book, Steal Like an Artist, says, all creative work builds on what came before. Nothing is completely original. I steal all the time, taking thumbnail concepts from different creators to then merge multiple ideas together from other thumbnail designs from other creators, references and ideas about life, creativity from authors that I admire, and then I bring it together into a video like this. I'm really not shy about it. Nothing that I'm saying comes from any original place in my head. If anything, I embrace it. The thing that makes my videos maybe seem original to other people is that there isn't another Adam Grasso out there talking to a camera about topics in the same way that I do. Similar maybe, but without all of the hilarious cat memes on screen. Not you, keyboard cat. One of my favorite quotes ever about creativity, and in particular putting yourself out online, it was really the quote that made me kind of break down the barrier of I'm not good enough to post online, is a quote by Andre Gide. Hope I'm pronouncing his surname correctly. But he said, everything that needs to be said has already been said. But since no one was listening, everything must be said again. so profound. I literally remind myself of this every time I feel any self-doubt towards making something, because I think, oh, it's already been done a million times. I can't possibly basically say the same thing, but slightly differently. It has actually been done a million times already. It's just that nobody was listening and they just need that little reminder from you. Not thinking that you're creative enough. I've heard some people say that others are just born as creatives and other people just aren't. Well, I don't think this is true. I'm pretty sure that everybody, if they really wanted to, could learn to make decent music beat that makes them seem like they kind of know how to produce music. But the difference is that some people would just enjoy that process way more than others would. It's not because that those people are less creative, but more so that they haven't found the creative craft that appeals to them the most. We all hold tendencies towards certain interests, but everybody is creative, and what that looks like from person to person just varies quite a lot. A different kind of creative person would hate to be sat down to script a 10-minute long YouTube video, but they could easily lose themselves in painting something for hours and hours. A lot of the whole journey of being a creative and moving through life is about finding what doesn't feel like work to you as much as it does to other people. My brother Daniel, for example, just loves languages. He would literally watch French content for hours and hours and hours, picking up all the grammar, remembering sentences in French, and for him that feels not like work at all. I, for example, can sit for literally hours and hours watching YouTube videos about filmmaking tech, different editing techniques, and would really find it hard to get bored doing that. I don't know why that is, I can't really explain it, but I just for some reason had and still have a natural interest towards these sort of creative topics. So go ahead, really experiment and explore to find your version of that. Something that just doesn't feel like work to you. Maybe just on the weekends you can put some time into learning that 3D software that you've been watching TikToks about for months. If this thing is really the thing that truly lights you up, you're gonna keep some level of consistency with it. And maybe, just maybe, you'll eventually grow your skills to the point where you have a decent looking portfolio together, which will then allow you to open up a few doors for you to reach out to 3D studios for, let's say, potential work or an apprenticeship. But I don't think that you always have to make your creative hobby the thing that is your living. Truth is that if you turn something that was once a creative hobby into something that is now your living, it's gonna inherently change your relationship to it. Primarily because now it's actually the thing that helps or completely pays your bills. And because of this, there'll be a new level of pressure to do the creative work that once used to just feel like play. It's probably why I feel the pull to explore other areas of creativity like music production, because I have zero commitments in that area and it's not paying any of my bills, so it just feels like an experiment and play to me. But in my opinion, if I had the choice, I would rather make my living doing something that I actually enjoy, providing that I could make money for the kind of lifestyle that I'd want to live, which luckily filmmaking and video does, versus making a living doing a job that you hate and then only with that sliver of free time that you have remaining, you dedicate it towards doing the thing that actually gets you in the flow and just makes time fade away. Comparing your creative path and journey to others. With thousands of other creatives out there making creative stuff, being all creative, all seemingly looking like they're having a blast and being super successful, doing what they love for a living, you can fall into questioning, why am I not there yet? It's a dangerous cycle. You consume more content from those people that you admire, which might give you that little bit of push of motivation, but that can very quickly soon turn to frustration as you beat yourself up about every little failure that you have that isn't aligned with the path that your idols appear to have taken. If you follow someone too closely, you're gonna miss potential and better opportunities that come your way. I was originally working myself up in the film industry, taking the traditional ladder, working on sets as a trainee, working as a lighting assistant, all with the dream of becoming that big shot cinematographer, the cinematographer that I'd been reading about in magazines and following the famous cinematographers and reading about how they got there and how they grinded for years and then they got that one big break and then they became the cinematographer who was shooting big Hollywood movies. But I also noticed that there were other filmmakers out there and YouTubers, you know, people like Peter McKinnon, who were able to go ahead and shoot big commercials for DJI just because they were a big YouTuber. And others like Freddie W, who were able to have a whole entire TV show just from the back of the success of their YouTube content. This made me think that this whole traditional path of filmmaking that I thought, you know, was a rite of passage to go on could actually be skipped entirely and you could still have all of the success that I desired. But if I'd stayed so rigid to the idea of becoming a full-time cinematographer following this traditional route that everybody else did, I wouldn't be even sat here right now making this video, because it wouldn't have aligned with what the people that I was inspired by actually ended up doing to be successful. And I have to remind myself that those people were successful in a completely different time in history. Of course, they probably would have used YouTube to help share their journey and teachings online about how they even became a cinematographer. David F. Sandberg of the YouTube channel Pony Smasher, amazing username, is a good example of this new wave filmmaker, director who works in Hollywood, but is using YouTube as a platform to build a community and to share his whole journey. Also, we've got to remember to take everything that online personalities say and post with a little bit of a grain of salt. Not me, I'm completely honest. You can trust everything I say. The path that they present rarely paints the full picture of how they actually got there. And instead, we're all seeing a representation of other people's highlight reels versus the actual behind the scenes of what their life currently looks like. So it's actually not that helpful to model their path too closely, because there's a lot that they're probably leaving out that actually got them to where they are right now. A lot of them are unlikely to be intentionally doing this. It's just that they've genuinely forgotten just how difficult it actually was in the early days of their grind towards success. When the main things that stick into their memory are really the, the aha, my big break moments that shine through beyond their recollections. It can feel hard when everybody around you is following a certain path and you feel like you also have to, follow the same way that they went down. But please be brave, have faith. If you end up on a path that just doesn't feel right to you for whatever reason, just have the open-mindedness to look for maybe a different path that is similar but not quite the same, and that one will actually just feel more aligned to what you want. Go ahead and follow all the YouTubers and online personalities and watch and consume the content that you admire, but try out if what they're saying resonates with you and throw out the stuff that doesn't and keep the stuff that does. It's better to take the best bits from multiple sources than mixing that into something that works with your particular personality. After all, that's basically what creativity is all about. Creating something new based on the things that came before it. If you're making most of your creative work from home, you might want to check out this video over here where I'll show you how to improve your focus and productivity when you're working from your home office setup. Hit that subscribe button, because if you don't, I'm gonna force you to work down the mines like my granddaddy used to. He wasn't a miner. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.